Hey, all, thank you so much for joining this webinar today. I'm Raghav, I'm a Senior Account Executive with VWO, and I will be taking you through the course of the next half an hour, 40 minutes in terms of a product walkthrough, in terms of trying to tell you how you can leverage VWO's platform to increase conversions from your website, and also showcase some examples of how current users are leveraging the platform from an entire conversion rate optimization viewpoint. Perfect. Let's get started right away then. To start off with, right, just a quick overview of who we are as a platform and how we help you with conversions on the website. So we started off 11 years ago with a standalone flagship testing product called VWO Testing, which is a client-side testing tool. So we have three products, which is A/B testing, multivariate testing, and split URL testing that you're able to do with VWO Testing. Essentially, our target segment here are marketers, UI, UX, product managers who want to be able to run tests and experimentation at scale without the need for dedicated development resources, right? So these could be changes like changing headline copy, color of button layouts, moving things around, rearranging pages, elements, adding new images, but you are handicapped by the requirement to work with dev resources. So we've kind of filled in that gap by means of our flagship product called VWO Testing. And then we've evolved to include certain other products that help with solving different problems in the conversion rate optimization funnel. VWO Insights is our visitor behavior analytics tool, wherein we help you know, as it says, right, know what your users really want by means of visual funnels, session recordings, heat maps, surveys, and form analytics as well. We have VWO Full Stack, which is server-side testing application. So if you want to run tests directly on your server, of course, this is a dev-friendly environment where you will be able to code out different changes and run tests directly on your server, as opposed to VWO Testing, where you'll be able to run tests on your front end, right, without actually affecting the code on your back end. We have VWO Engage, which is a push notification product, which allows you to retarget lost visitors on your website. So in this case, we are complementing your other retargeting channels, such as emails or or Facebook retargeting ads, and so on. We have VWO Plan, which is a free project management layer that lies within the platform itself. I will talk about this in just a bit as well. And then we have VWO Deploy. VWO Deploy is our attempt to productize and bridge the gap between marketing teams and dev teams, especially when some of the use cases that I can think of, or let us say you're running an A/B test even, and at the end of the A/B test you have a winning variation, and you want to push that winning variation as the experience across experience for the rest of your audience. In this case, the traditional approach would be then to kind of reach out to your dev teams or IT teams and help them to push these code changes live on the website. And this could take days, weeks, and even months in a lot of cases, depending on the sprint cycle of your dev teams. And in this case, VWO Deploy emancipates or empowers your marketing UI UX teams to push out these changes on the front end without having to wait for your dev resource to pitch in. And some other examples also could include hot fixes on your website, pushing, supposing you're running a webinar campaign and now the webinar is completed. You just want to remove the webinar fold from your website or your homepage. All you have to just use deploy, remove that, and run as an experience for 100% of your audience, to give you an example. So over the course of the next half an hour, 40 minutes, we will be looking at a broad overview of how you can leverage different products within the VWO ecosystem to analyze, first of all, and increase the conversions on your website traffic. Let me quickly dive into the product itself and showcase you how you would go about doing that within the product. First things first, this is how the dashboard would look like as soon as you sign in to your experience. On the left-hand side, you will see all the different products within the ecosystem. You will have insights, testing, full stack. We do also have a personalized module. Supposing you want to personalize experience rather than test. Supposing you have audience in Chicago, you have audience in Miami, you have audience in Rome, for example, and you want to run different hero images for all of these people. Supposing you want to run the Leaning Tower of Pisa, for example, for people coming in from Italy, whereas you want to show the beaches of Florida for people coming in from Florida. So you can do all of those different personalized experiences for your different users. We also have all of the other products listed here. From a configuration standpoint, it's fairly straightforward. All you have to do is go to the gear icon on the top right side of your screen. And if you go to Smart Code here, we do have our asynchronous JavaScript snippet pasted here. All you have to do is copy paste this piece of snippet directly onto the head section of your website. and we are good to go, right? We're an always switched on platform. We will start collecting heat maps, session recording, funnel data from the get-go. We will also be able to run tests as soon as this code is applied on your website. So this is one code for all of our client-side products. Of course, full stack will be integrated by means of a mobile SDK, whereas all of our client-side products depend on this smart code. Supposing you are on one of the e-commerce platforms like say Shopify or WooCommerce or BigCommerce or any of those other CMS platforms, we do have dedicated one-step integrations as well. And we are CMS agnostic, so this should work pretty much on any CMS that you are making use of. Supposing you want to send it to your developer from right within here, all you have to do is just click on send to developer and paste this particular snippet to your developer so that they can add it to the head section of your website. Moving on, we also have a few more options for different kinds of users, right? And of course, there could be different kinds of usages of the account itself. You could have multiple different brands under your account. So we could have different brands as separate sub accounts. Supposing you are an agency and you work with 4 or 5 different clients who would like to use the VWO platform. Of course, you do want all of those accounts to be separate rather than in a single account. What you can do in that case is add as many sub accounts as you want here, and all of these sub accounts can be your different clients. And given the nature of our pricing structure and model, we do have a monthly unique visitor model. So you would also be able to allocate different traffic to go into different clients from the upfront. So you would be able to say 500K for your client 1, 200K or 20K for your client 2, and so on and so forth. When it comes from a user's point of view, there are no limitations. You can add as many users to be part of your account as possible. You can also dedicate different roles to them: admin, publish. Some people can just be allowed to browse through your tests. Some people can be allowed to publish. Some people can be allowed to design, and so on and so forth. Quickly moving on to VWO Plan, which is our inbuilt native project management tool. There are 2 key aspects to VWO Plan. We have observations and we have hypothesis. Observations are nothing but pretty much anything that you observe on your website, right? So these could come from different places. You could just create a particular description here to say H1 could be 1. You could just give it a page URL. Let me just take the example of our own careers page. To give an example, I could just add it here and create it as an observation and it gets logged here. Or it could also come from any of the other insights tool like heat maps and section recordings and so on. You could directly take a snapshot of what you're looking at. In this case, we have a CTA button, contact us, that's not getting enough clicks while it should. So we've just marked it as contact us being ignored in mobile view and create as an hypothesis. Or you could also use the Google Chrome extension that we have and create different observations. Once you've created these observations, you can then make use of these observations to create hypotheses on your website. It's a Kanban style project management tool for your testing roadmap and cadences. You can create an hypothesis depending on an existing observation. Give it a prioritization score based on confidence, ease of implementation, and the importance of that particular test. Give it a source and create it as a card for your team to pick up and run a test on. You also have a list view to filter out based on the state or the difficulty or the priority of that test. If you have any questions, please do populate or chat or questions pane of our control panel, and we will be able to get to you right away. Moving on to VWO testing, right? We have 3 different products in testing. We have AB, multivariate, and split URL testing. The nature of the tests are, of course, different. In AB tests, you have a control and you have different variations of the control that are split to different audiences. In a multivariate test, you have multiple different changes and you have combinations of those changes as different variations to identify what combinations work the best on your audience. In split URL tests, you have two entirely different URLs at the end of the day. So you have www.wingify.com, for example, and you have www.wingify.com/test. And you could split the traffic to the two different URLs and identify which variation of your page works better. In the essence of it, the way we set up, the way we segment, or the underlying algorithm that determines or computes the results from a variation and control standpoint is still the same, but it's just the nature of the tests that are different. I'm going to take the example of an A/B test to show you how to set up an A/B test in VWO. Whilst I continue to go about the process of setting up an A/B test, if you do have any questions, please do feel free to raise those questions on chat or on the questions pane. We do have a team manning this particular section, so we will be getting back to you right away. I will also take questions at the end of this webinar. To set up an A/B test, there are 4 steps that are involved. The first step is identifying the URLs that you want to run the test for. So I'm going to just assume the same URL for the purpose of this conversation. Let us say you have a test in mind, right? And the test is you understand that a lot of people are dropping off at this particular fold. Maybe you want to add a CTA button somewhere here. You want to do a few changes on this page. And that's something that you've already observed and analyzed. And we're going to make some of these changes on this particular page here. So I could simply just copy paste the URL where I want to run the test on. I could also use the advanced option and add multiple different pages to the test. I could have URL matches pattern, URL contains, starts with, ends with, and matches regular expressions. I could always also include multiple other URLs to be part of the test or exclude multiple different URLs to be part of the test. For example, if I want to add all pages in my website, I could say URL matches, and I could also say, or I could say matches pattern here, and I could also say matches pattern and remove all blog pages from my particular test. Let me keep it simple for the purpose of this test. The next step is to apply the hypothesis that we're testing. So this could be adding a low intent CTA for users to know more. It's an example CTA that we're going to be using for the purpose of this conversation. The last step is to segment the test for your different users. Of course, this is not mandatory. You can choose to run the test for 100% of your audience, whilst you can also choose to segment the test for several cohorts of your audience, right? This depends on multiple different aspects. This depends on your end goal for the test. This depends on the nature of your test. This depends on the traffic that is coming into the page. Supposing you have a page that has a traffic of, say, 10,000 monthly unique visitors or 10,000 unique visitors that will be part of that test. But you want to get result really quickly, there may not be enough feasibility in segmenting the test for minor cohorts. But supposing you have a high traffic page and you want to target a specific kind of test for, say, mobile users and desktop users, or new visitors, returning visitors, or people even from certain geographic area, you can do that. So let me go into segment gallery. We have templatized some of the most commonly used cohorts here, in the sense of direct traffic, referral traffic, social traffic, fairly straightforward marketing channels, new visitors, returning visitors, non-paid search, email traffic, desktop and tablet traffic. You could, of course, go one level further and custom segment your cohorts as well. So we do have several options in the name of properties here. We have different categories. You can segment on the basis of source, landing page URL, referral URL, traffic source, query parameters. If you're running campaigns on your Instagram channels or your Facebook channels, or even email retargeting ads or emails, right? And you want to run specific variations for those users, you can segment based on these channels. You can segment based on behavior, clicks on element, time spent on page, exit intent, page scrolls. These are the behaviors that we naturally natively collect. If you have a custom trigger that you want to utilize, you can always code out that particular condition and fire it from your end. We give you the flexibility to add your own behavioral triggers. Technology, OS, browsers, device types. If you want to run specific device tests, time of the visit, supposing I only want to run a test for people in the weekend. And only for people from, say, Miami, we can do that. Go to visitors here. We can filter up to a city level. So on and so forth. I can, of course, add complex conditions as well. If and statements. We can also target based on cookie values, JavaScript values, and IP addresses. Supposing you have populated certain custom dimensions of your or user attributes, right? People who are part of a specific plan on your website, or MVP customers who've spent more than a certain dollar value on your website, or even people who are who have signed in, logged in users, different attributes that you want to target. We can target by means of data layer variables on your front end. So by means of JavaScript variables or cookie values, we can pick those users from a data layer variable on your front end and target specific experiences for them as well. We do also have integrations with multiple different third-party apps such as Clearbit or web analytic platforms like Mixpanel, where we will be able to pull out all of the cohorts that you have in these products or apps, and we'll be able to run experiences for them as well. So once you've segmented these users, now we go on to the next step where we run different variations on the page itself. Of course, I repeat myself, right? If in case there are questions, please feel free to bring it up. We will be able to answer all of your questions either now during the course of this webinar or at the end of the webinar as well. We will have some dedicated time to go through questions. First things first, we are working on variation 1. You can add as many variations as you want. There are no limitations here. I'm going to work with variation 1 for the moment. Making changes is pretty straightforward. You can click on the element, make different changes to the CSS element of those particular changes here. We also have built an AI layer on top of open source GPT-3 AI for content suggestions, wherein we will be able to recommend different copy based on our AI module. You can change buttons. You can edit HTMLs of the buttons as well directly. So whilst you can make changes on these elements itself, you can also click on these elements and change the HTML directly as well. Making changes to images, removing elements, fairly straightforward. So one of the examples that we want to look was this fold was not performing as well, and we wanted to remove this fold from the website. We could just remove it entirely. Or let us say I'm going to undo this particular change and move this element further down. Let me say I want to bring the map section here to the top of the page. This is an iframe here. I could edit iframe content here. I'm going to copy this. Now I brought the map section right here. So now I can go ahead and remove this particular iframe here. And I've changed the alignment of my web page. If I want to run multi-page tests, of course, I can. Right now I'm in design mode. I can move to navigate mode here, go to a different page. Go back to design mode here and make those changes as well. If I want to add changes, images, all of that right from within the platform itself. Apart from this, we also have widgets that you can make use of under the library section. So you're not restricted to making changes with the elements that are already on the page. You can go to library section, add basic elements such as images, content, buttons, paragraphs, block codes, labels, etc. We also have options to add different kinds of templatized widgets like promotional banners, something like that, an e-commerce example here. We could also have different kinds of pop-ups, image pop-ups that could be triggered based on specific behavioral attributes of the user, form pop-ups if you want to collect the email address, the names of people that are on your page, depending on their exit intent, subscription pop-ups, descriptive tooltips, video embeds, social share, click to contact buttons, and so on and so forth. Of course, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise a chat or question in the control panel, and we will be getting to it as soon as we can. So once this is done, we also have a mobile view here in case you want to make some changes from the mobile point of things. The editor works in pretty much the same way. Of course, we have this particular editor here. I'm going to remove this for the purpose of this conversation. I can make changes here. So once this is done, the next step for us in this particular process is to identify the goals that we want to track. Let's say an example goal is people who click on this particular element. I could click on that element and track clicks right here. I could also go to next. The step is dedicated for setting up of your goals. You can add as many goals as you want. Natively, we track page visits, engagement, form submits, clicks on link, clicks on element, revenue conversion goals. So you could also attribute exact revenue uplift from your different tests and custom conversion goals. Supposing the goal that you want to track is not natively captured in VWO, you can always create a custom conversion goal. So one time setup, you don't have to create it ever again, and track those goals as well. To give you an example, I'm going to add a couple of goals here. Once this is done, we will have to identify the primary goal for the test. So the primary goal is important because we will use the primary goal to determine the statistical significance to declare a winner for the test. That said, you will still be able to get all kinds of data on all of your different goals. The last step of the test is where we allocate the traffic and other advanced features as well. I'm going to say by default, we run the test for 100% of your audience. You can, of course, toggle it to reduce the amount of traffic that we show the test to. Secondly, we can also customize the traffic allocation. In this case, by default, we will split it equally, but you can toggle it up and down to make sure that it is reflective in a specific manner as well. Once you've set this up, we do have direct integrations with all major analytics providers, Heap, Mixpanel, Google, and the others, right? So if we can work with if you have a very specific requirement with a web analytics platform where you will want to push the test results into your analytical platform, please do let us know what platform you use, and we can help you with the setup of that integration and how we can push all of the test information into your web analytics platform as well. Once this is completed, we have a few more options that you can make use of before we push the test live. Things like scheduling. You can schedule a particular test to start at a specific time, pause at a specific time, and so on. mutually exclusive groups as well. Supposing you are running 4 different tests on your homepage, and you don't want one user who's part of one test to see the other tests in that same page. What you can do is you can add all the 4 tests to a mutually exclusive group. Once you've added those tests to a mutually exclusive group, people who are part of one test in that group will not be able to see the other tests in that group. So it helps in 2 ways, right? It helps in the user experience itself because they're not part of multiple different tests. And secondly, it also helps from making sure that your test is not adulterated, and that unintended customer behavior does not impact the results of your test. A few more campaigns, a few more options here. Report segmentation, that would be super important. And heat maps, because we have a natively integrated platform where all the data between the products talk to each other. We can set that up and click on finish. Once we click on finish, the test is live and splitting traffic between your audience. I'm just going to quickly move on to the reporting and analytics side of things as well to show you a little bit of how to process the data from the test. Let me go to paused here to get a data with some kind of get a test with some kind of data here. This is how the dashboard of a particular test would look like. We have the hypothesis we tested, the primary goal that we tested, when it started, the day timelines, a snapshot of the performances. We can drill down into the detailed reports under the report section here. First things first, of course, you have your primary goal and the different metrics for that particular goal, expected conversion rate, improvement, baseline visitors, and these are actual numbers. These are actual number of conversions and actual number of visitors on the test. And these are real-time data as well. So the data gets populated in real time as and when users become part of your test. You can, of course, compare different goals. So you will see goal 3, goal 6, goal 5 being tracked here. This test declaration here, the winner here, that is determined by your primary goal. So that is dependent on goal 6 engagement in this case. You can also deep dive into these data by post segmenting your test. That could be an extremely useful factor as well. Even if a test does not perform well, even if a test has a negative improvement, or the control is performing better than your variations, you can still deep dive into different cohorts of your audience or different segments of your audience. Let us say in this particular case, I want to track new visitors and returning visitors and how they performed in this particular test, because they don't necessarily perform in the same ways. So you will see differences between returning and new visitors. In this particular test, I don't think we have any returning visitors who've been part of the test. So let me probably go to another segment. We could look at device specific traffic to see if we have mobile and desktop traffic and how they performed in this particular test. So we do have some differences between conversion rates of your mobile traffic and your desktop traffic. So this allows you to get more insights on how to optimize your web experiences or web pages for different kinds of traffic. If your mobile users and your desktop users perform differently, should they have the same website experience? Should they be optimized for different experiences? Is something for you to chew on as well. All of the features that we looked at in the beginning of the test to segment are available in the post segmentation option as well, with the exception of a few things like behavior, of course, right? Behavior is a pre-test filter. You cannot segment based on test of behavior after the test is complete, but most of the options are available here as well. I'm gonna close that. We also have some visualization options for you. We have a date range graph that shows you the performance of variations with respect to time. Box plots that show the maximum, minimum, and most likely scenarios for your variations. In this particular case, right, we know that the worst case of variation is still much better than the best case of control and the best case of variation 2. In this case, this is a clear winner. It's a no-brainer for me to go ahead and implement this particular variation as a winner. This is where VWO deploy comes into the picture, right? You can deploy these test variations as the experience for 100% of your audience without involving your dev teams by simply clicking on start now here. So in this particular test, the deployment has already happened. So you can see that variation 1 has been deployed as the successful winner. you can also, you will have a start now button in a test that hasn't been deployed already. You can just click on start now and begin the very experience already. So you don't have to depend on any of your dev teams for it. We also have a probability density graph that shows you the conversion rates on the x-axis and the probability density on the peak of this curve. One way to look at it, of course, we call it the uncertainty overlap. Let me actually show you the other variation for better clarity. This is what we call the uncertainty overlap. The larger the area of uncertainty, the lower the impact of the test, and the lesser, and vice versa, of course. A couple more options. You can look at heat maps and click maps of these tests right within, because the entire experience is integrated between the different products. You can run tests and analyze your variation and control granularly by looking at heat maps and click maps as well. These particular variations don't exist in this particular demo account, but what I can do is go into heat maps and give you a snippet of how different heat maps would look like as well. So you can look at this side by side for your control variations to see how users have interacted with your website and variations. You can look at heat maps are nothing but digital heat signatures of activity and engagement on your website. So darker the areas resemble more activity, lighter indicates lesser activity. You can look at click maps as well, number of clicks on each element, click areas, scroll maps, and element list as well, a laundry list of all the elements on your particular page and how much conversion or how many engagement clicks have happened on each of these elements. And these are not just static images, right? These are dynamic as well. These are not static screenshots of your website. So if you have dynamic elements like a drop down, a form fill, or something like that, let us say, we can also open up those particular elements and analyze that as well. And in this case, like the previous case that I had shown you when we were discussing VWO plan, you notice that the contact us button, which is a key CTA button for me, has not gotten enough clicks. I can click on the eye icon here and create an observation for it. That could be a hypothesis or an observation here. Once you create the observation, it gets logged into VWO plan, and you can pick it up and run a test again. So the underlying bottom line metric that we always keep an eye for is testing velocity as well. So the more observations you make, the more insights you have, the more hypotheses and the more validations you have to test. The more you test, the higher your conversion rate. And that's where we complete the loop there. Just quickly on the insights module as well, right? When we're looking at heat maps, there are two ways to assess heat maps. Once the code has been installed on your page and you've enabled heat maps, we're an always switched on platform. So you will have this particular thing called collecting data, and we will be collecting information of your audience right from the get-go. You can segment the heat maps as well. Right now, it's a simple version of this particular URL. You can, of course, go advanced, identify different URLs that you want to track, select different segments based on similar selection criteria that we discussed in testing, and look at those heat maps. We also have an option called views here. Views are nothing but preset filters, right? Things like if you want to track only a specific campaign, or if you want to track all people who come from email campaigns as a heat map, you can create a particular heat map like that for all people who are coming from email traffic. So that could be created as a view for me. It's a one-time setup. I can create as many views as I want, and data will start getting populated from the minute this particular view has been created. If you want to look at all historic data after you've kind of installed the if enabled heat maps, you can look at things here. Or if you wanted to create one-time views and look at specific filters and segments at any point of time, you can do that as well. The same thing applies to our session recording product as well. You have a very similar view. You have views here, and you can create as many views as you want for different segments of audience. And you can also look at different session recordings right from within here as well. In session recordings, we do track left clicks, right clicks, mouse scrolls, dead clicks, rage clicks as well. Supposing you have a huge drop off on your checkout page and you want to understand why people are dropping off, It could be because one of your key CTA buttons is not working, for example, or there is a bad experience on certain parts where people are not able to identify how to navigate through the course of your website. You can always have rage clicks as a filter and say everybody who's had rage clicks on your key checkout pages, identify their views and see what could be changed on your page as well. This is an example of how session recordings works here, right? As this seen. One thing to note, of course, is that we track all of the different sessions of that particular user here. Because we work at a unique visitor model, we will be able to map all the different sessions of a user under the same user. So supposing a visitor becomes part of a test on a Monday, comes back on a Wednesday, completes the checkout process on a Saturday, or signs up for your account on a Saturday, you will be able to see all of those sessions of that particular user here. And of course, if you have an observation, you can go ahead and create an observation here, logged at 0021, and that becomes part of VWO plan, and you can run a test for that particular experience as well. Once again, I do reiterate that if you have any questions, please feel free to populate the chat or the questions pane, and then we will get to it as soon as we can. A couple more options, of course. You can have very similar looking funnels here as well, much similar to your web analytics platform where you have different goals. You create goals right here. The goals we do track are page visits, form submits, clicks on link, clicks on element, revenue conversion, and custom conversion goals, like we spoke about in testing. Once you've created these goals, you can make use of those goals to create funnels. Funnels are nothing but compilation of goals. You can have goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, goal 4 laid out like this. And you can identify the drop-offs and how people are going through the funnel. In this case, we have a 2.1% conversion rate for your goal. You can segment it for different audience as well to say, okay, show me only for social traffic, and I can show that, see that particular audience here. And at any point of time, if there's a huge drop off in this particular case, I can click on it and look at heat maps and recordings of those specific segments of users as well. We have a couple more options as well within Insights. We have form analytics and surveys as well. Form analytics are quite useful, especially if you have lead generation forms or subscription forms on your website and you want to track them. We do not help you create forms itself, but we help you analyze and assess the different forms on your website. Supposing you have a form on this particular page, all you have to do is copy the URL, complete the URL, auto detect using page URL, fetch forms, and the forms are coming here. Once I create this form, we start tracking this form. We can also segment this data for specific visitor groups as well. Very similar again. Once you start tracking a form, this is what it would look like. Number of people who landed on that page, interacted, and submitted the forms. I can also go further down and get field level statistics of forms, total time spent on the form, interaction time with the form, hesitation time, forms that got refilled, where did people ignore, and where are people dropping off. So at any point of time, just create an observation and run a test, optimize the form, make sure that you're getting more conversions from your page. We also have a nifty little survey tool that you could make use of to gather feedback from your users. Pretty neat little tool that could again be customized to your very specific use cases. You could segment it to a specific visitor group, base it on a trigger. The survey can be shown to display on the performance of different attributes like time spent, exit intent, number of pages visited, so on and so forth, or even a custom condition you can define. There is flexibility there. You can customize the different survey. You can have single line text boxes, multi-line checkbox, drop downs, rating, net promoter scores as well. You can also customize flow options. You could say if they choose 5-star rating, then show them a different question. You can have all of those different options here. You have a little survey, you can change the questions. Or something like that. You can add more questions here as well. For example, if you're a travel site and you want to ask them different things like that, you can do that. You go to the next stage. We can customize the look and feel of this particular survey. We do have some built-in themes. If you want to add a new theme, you can always edit the CSS options here and create your own theme. Once you've created a new theme or use one of our existing themes, go to the next page where we finalize who we show the survey to. By default, we show to all of your audience. You can schedule it as well, toggle it, and we start collecting surveys. The data for the surveys would look something like this. And again, because we are an integrated conversion rate optimization product, we're not tackling just A/B testing or just observations. We allow you to make use of different things in the CRO funnel and use them to your advantage. In this case, we have a particular question like this, an NPS survey. You have 3 responses with people with low ratings. You can just look at recordings of those particular visitors and their experience and optimize it to make it better as well. So that's where we close the loop. So it's not just one part of the funnel we're going after. It is a holistic experience, and we want to make sure that the experience is optimal and conversion rates are as well. So that's to kind of conclude a high-level overview of how you could leverage VWO as part of a holistic conversion rate optimization project. More than happy to take questions and customize and understand your very specific use cases and requirements as well, and follow this conversation up with a more personalized demo discussion where we can kind of single out your specific requirements, kinds of tests, and help improve your conversions as well. Thank you so much, folks, for joining in today's webinar. I hope this was useful. If there are any, I will be following up with the questions and chat personally as well to make sure that they are addressed and that you get answers for that. But apart from that, if there are any other questions, feel free to reach out to the team and we will be more than happy to help you out with your conversion optimization requirements. Otherwise, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hosting you. I hope this was useful and informative. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.